When you talk about figuring out what's true, I don't know how much you listen to NPR.
NPR. Well, here, let me tell you a little something.
I don't know if anybody can see.
Yeah, I can see your shirt there.
I stopped donating to NPR. Ask me why.
Yeah. So here's my history. I used to be as a graduate student, let's say, I was an NPR addict. Enough so
all
that
of us.
When I went to Panama to do my field work, I was there for 18 months. Yeah. I brought a shortwave radio with me because sitting there in the canal zone, I was able to pick up NPR and I listened every day. Right. So I was definitely on board with NPR. And, Heather and I look at each other sometimes now and we say, was it this crazy then? And I really don't think so.
Absolutely not.
I think
unquestionably not. Yeah.
So what's happened to it is it's been ideologically captured.
Correct.
It has become an ironic inversion of itself.
Yeah, it is really, and for this, so our show with Matt Thornton, our mutual friend, is All Things Reconsidered. He is, by the way, thank you. I came up with that in the shower. He is basically, he's not only my jiu-jitsu teacher, but when you talked about a friendship of virtue, he's someone with whom I have a friendship of virtue. So we're doing a show, All Things Reconsidered, and the show, it's a 5-segment show. It's a 5-episode show with multiple segments. So the first segment, almost everybody, I came up with this idea because I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he said, yeah, and I was telling him I had this idea for a show about NPR. And he said, I stopped listening to NPR when, and I realized, wow, I bet you so many people have stories of when they stopped listening to NPR. So I just started asking stories, and we put it out on Twitter. Hey, do you have a story? And we just got inundated with, I stopped listening to NPR when. So, and if you haven't listened, I've listened to hundreds, if not 1,000 hours of NPR preparation for this. And I can tell you what I learned in a minute. But anyway, so we do these, I stopped listening to NPR when, and then we have episodes, and Matt and I analyze those episodes. And then we have a reverse pledge drive. I pledge not to donate money to NPR. So unlike the Republicans who want NPR defunded, I don't want NPR defunded. I think it's a terrible idea. I want a station, because I used to listen to NPR. I used to, not as fanatically as you, I loved NPR. I loved, Car Talk was the only thing I didn't like. Now,
really?
Yeah, 10,000.
You're the only person.
Yeah, we'll get like 10,000 emails. You didn't like Car Talk, you bastard. But I want a station everybody can listen to that's not left, that's not right, that's data-driven.
All things considered.
Right, that presents facts. We just don't have that anymore.
No.
And so that's why I'm doing it, because I love NPR, not because I want to throat kick them and have them defunded. But one thing I've learned from this, I've learned a lot from listening to, I truly don't even know how many hours of NPR, and then analyzing them with Matt. If they'll have their own expert on who's woke, and I encourage viewers to listen to, if you can do the brain damage. I told my team this is the hardest thing I ever had to ask of you, to take away some IQ points. But listen to NPR and you'll see this runs through all the episodes, or virtually all the episodes. Instead of presenting an expert who actually believes it on the other side, they will find somebody basically who's woke or forwards whatever narrative they're trying to forward in this suite of ideological propositions under the rubric of critical race theory or critical social justice or what have you. And they'll say, well, what is an argument against that? Or what does an expert say about that? As opposed to just finding someone who actually believes it, who's a credible source, and asking them, well, what do you mean?
So it's not a credible expert on the other side. It's not a steel man. It's like an actual straw man argument.
Correct.
Incarnate.
And it is fascinating to me to listen to this and think about all those people, probably older people, and I read something a while ago, the demographic of people who listen to NPR is by far and away, they vote. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, all those people who listen to NPR driving around, and they're hearing caricatures of positions that almost nobody believes.
Right.
It's become a disinformation. And I think most of those people, because I've now talked to a lot of them, say by the way, I love this is a DarkHorse thing. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's
Fans sent us that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, they're driving around saying, I know something's wrong. I don't quite know what it is, But they keep listening to NPR.
Right. And it does have to do, I mean, I'm sick of the term virtue signaling, right? It's grown tired, but it does have to do with that. In other words, the fact that you were in your car alone when you didn't have to, listening to NPR, is somehow evidence that you are virtuous. And so it becomes that hallmark. But do we have any idea what happened? I mean, NPR was always liberal, but I think it was liberal in the positive sense of that term 30 years ago, and then it has become, team blue.
It's the same thing that's happened. This is simplistic, but I'm going to put this out as explanation. It's the same thing with everything else. People went to the academies. They studied the works of their professor and tested on things. People, they idea laundered. They discharge their moral impulses in journals. It comes out as knowledge. They study that. They get correct answers. They graduate 4 to 5, 6, 7 years. They go into positions of authority. They take all the insane nonsense that they learn with them. And while the missions, like the ACLU, is completely ideologically captured, to use a phrase that keeps coming up, the Southern Poverty Law Center. The missions are the same, but the people responsible for discharging those missions are in the orbit of the ideology. And so the ACLU now is in no way what it was when we were growing up.
So, I mean, you're at the risk of, I'm risking serious cultural insensitivity here, because what it sounds like you are, I'm risking a serious error. Okay, because what this evokes to me is like a collegiate madrasa, right?
That's exactly what it is.
This is an indoctrination in a religious perspective, and I don't mean to denigrate all of the religious perspectives that have, gotten people through thousands of years by guiding them, right? What I call literally false metaphorically true beliefs. But these are basically brand new religions. These are cults. And that cult, the problem is it is wielding a tremendous amount of power. And it is not only wielding a tremendous amount of power, which arguably is its right in a democracy, but it is wielding that power against others.
Correct.
Right? We are not allowed to believe that there are two sexes and that gender is their behavioral manifestation. We are not allowed to believe that. We are understood to be bad people if we do.